Just finished watching the Tomorrow War. I guess I'm a little bit late to the party. Before I even watched Rotten Tomatoes, I said this is a 7.5. Like, I know it's a cop out. Usually people should either say a 7 or an 8. So 7.5. And then I see the audience score is 77. It's like, wow. I was quite close. I would say it's an 8, to be honest. I know the critics hate it. I haven't seen what EFAP has to say about it, but they probably hate it as well. Because, I mean, their standards at this point are just ridiculous. I mean, initially they started with just wanting inherent consistency from movies. Like, for example, in Star Wars, you shouldn't just be able to use warp speed and do kamikaze and just destroy ships 10 times the size of your ship. I get that. But now it's at the point where they're just like, oh, well, someone is punching Mandalorian in the helmet. Why are they doing this? It makes no logical sense. They are not going for the optimal decision. Let's go back frame by frame and watch. Okay. Not really my. I mean, it's just like autistically nitpicking at movies. But anyway, I shouldn't just complain about EFAP because then all the comments in the section are going to be about EFAP, right? Because I complain about it. No. What I want to say is about this movie. I think like the first half is absolutely amazing. If they managed to keep up the first half, if this would have been like part 1 and they didn't have part 2 and it would be cropped in the middle, part 1 would have been like a 9 out of 10 and part 2 would have been like a 5 or something like this. Like the ending kind of ruins it for me. It becomes a little bit too Hollywood-esque, if you will. But the first part is amazing. And I guess like Attack on Titan is suffering from the same thing. It creates such an interesting story and such an interesting universe that no ending can really do it justice and wrap it up nicely. So I didn't really like the ending. But the concept, my God, the concept was really great. It was like a reverse Terminator. This is actually how you could pull off a reverse Terminator, like a Terminator sequel. So for those of you who haven't watched it, just minor spoilers here. It's about people coming from the future and saying that there's an alien invasion and it wiped out almost the entire human race. So what they need now is able bodies to fight in the future. So they're getting people from the past to go into the future in order to fight in the war. And I assume it's also, like trading people to try and discover new technology and try to discover new things in order to help with the future war and whatnot. But like the main focus is on like the bodies that go from the past into the future. Apparently, there's a massive casualty rate. Only 30% of the people come back. And if I'm not mistaken, they would only go there for 7 days. And that was enough to get a lot of people killed. But what I loved is the reaction to this, right? Because you had a couple of people that were against the government and they were saying, no, it's like, this is not our war, it's not our problem. And I can really see that happening in the real world. I mean, usually if people don't genuinely feel that the problem is affecting them in any way, shape, or form, they don't understand why restrictions and why crackdowns need to happen. So for example, when a conscription was made so that they could take random people and just send them into the future, there was massive protests and riots against that. A lot of people lost their uncles, their friends, their family. And it's like they just didn't see why. And then, of course, there were protests at the end of the movie when people were saying, well, if the war is lost, then what was the point living? And they would just become lawless and whatnot. So I could definitely see that reaction to the government doing that. And I also really like the setting, right? Usually you get the Terminator, like people coming from the future into the past in order to do things, but now it's like people from the past going into the future. So I really love that as well. I think like that would make an interesting sequel for the Terminator. It's like, hey, machines are there. We don't know where they came or why are they there, but like what we need now is bodies to go into the future and fight them off. Like that would be really cool. Actually, you could make a interesting Terminator sequel like that. You'd have like people allied with Skynet, so Skynet wouldn't just be the machines trying to take over. It would be like the corporation in charge of Skynet, and they're the ones that took over. Like maybe they're even augmented humans, like Klaus Schwab ones, people that are like between man and machine. And they're the ones that in the past, there may also be like very powerful. So you now have just a small faction of people, like an underground faction of people that are just trying to send people into the future in order to fight. It may be something like that. I don't know. I haven't thought it through. But overall, right? So this is, in my opinion, a decent movie that you can see. The critics, from what I can tell, they also hate the fact that this actor is openly Christian. A lot of them are open in their reviews. Like, they honestly hate the actor. So it's okay when the critics bomb a movie, right? When the critics do it, it's perfectly fine. They're not trolling. They're not giving it a bad grade because they don't like the actor or because they don't like the politics of the actor. Heaven forbid. No, it's the audience that is always trolling. So you should believe 198 reviewers over 5,000 people. You're going to be entertained if you watch it. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section, and I'll see you there.